discussion went on among the staff and the commission members once you were rebuffed by, in certain ways, by the CIA in giving you a clear sense of how they obtained the information, whether there was discussion to try to seek to talk to some of these detainees directly by the commission, or to battle over that issue?
Both. And actually, my report to Kane and Hamilton, which, as I say, was leaked by someone in the government to the New York Times and is available on the internet, actually gives the specific details about our efforts to both press the administration generally on this issue. And that issue, by the way, went all the way up to discussions directly between Kane and Hamilton and George Tenet, and then was escalated past that to further discussions involving Lee Hamilton with White House counsel Gonzalez, George Tenet, and Don Rumsfeld, in which they simply flatly said, we can't give you the access to the interrogators that you want, and we can't give you the access to the detainees that you want. If there are some particular follow-up questions you want to pose to try to clarify some of the inconsistencies and contradictions in the information you are getting, we're happy to forward those questions on to the interrogators, but we won't let you talk to the people yourselves in order to evaluate the information. Understand, the Commission is operating under a specific statutory mandate from Congress. Our mandate from Congress was to find out the facts and circumstances surrounding the 9/11 attacks. Therefore, we tried to get all the information that would help us do that. And when we got the information from these interrogations, we were dissatisfied with its quality and detail. And we listed our dissatisfactions repeatedly and in writing to the government. We then followed up with them in a variety of different ways to probe more deeply. But if I can underscore one more point, just so that we don't lose perspective on this, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and Ramzi bin al-Shibh bragged on Al Jazeera about carrying out the 9/11 attacks before they were captured. So I don't think that there is a significant question as to whether or not they are truthfully claiming to be involved in these attacks. They said that before they were caught.
Michael Ratner, you're the president of the Center for Constitutional Rights. Your response?
You know, when Robert called me to talk about this story and what he had found, essentially the key chapters being based substantially on evidence from torture, I actually was really shocked by it. I mean, I didn't know that. I work in this field, and I didn't know that. And I was shocked by it because we all know that our own court cases have said evidence from torture is not reliable. And here you have a report that's supposed to tell us what actually happened in its key chapters on the planning of 9/11, what actually happened when the people came into the country, and you look at those footnotes and they're based on torture. What it has to tell you is to be very, very skeptical about a number of the conclusions in that report. You just can't rely on evidence of torture. We all know that. Think about it. If the Bhutto assassination, if the government of Pakistan issued a report and we knew it came out of torture, would any of us be sitting at this table believing it? Would we believe that about the assassination of Kennedy if it came out of tortured people? No, we wouldn't. Why are we accepting this? That's not saying it's not true, but it's saying we have a big problem here now because we have evidence of torture. The second response I have, and it's really to Phil, is if he suspected torture, when he went back for that second round of questioning, didn't you expect that they might continue to do torture to get answers from people? And isn't that sort of putting the commission in a place where it's really sort of the handmaiden of continuing torture? I mean, I was really, really shocked by that. By that time, in early 2004, there was some evidence, and more than some, that torture was being used. We had torture articles about Afghanistan. We had early in that period, we had the Tipton 3 people coming out of Guantanamo talking about torture by March or April. By April 28th, of course, we had Abu Ghraib, and yet the report of the commission comes out after this, comes out 6 months after those revelations. So it puts the commission really, I think, and the report in a very, very scary place where it was really based, in my view, on torture, and it's a sad comment.
Philip Zelikow, your response, chair of the 9/11 Commission, executive director of the 9/11 Commission.
I think Michael Ratner's concerns are legitimate concerns, but I think he overstates the case when he says these footnotes are based on torture, this evidence is based on torture. He doesn't know that. And he doesn't even know that the information from Khalid Sheikh Mohammed in these particular interrogation reports came from torture. We don't know that. He doesn't know that. No one knows that.
Philip Zelikow, do you know that they didn't?
No, of course I don't know that they didn't, and I don't know that they did. So what's the obligation here? The obligation is tell the public what you know, tell them how you know it, citing all your sources. If there's some things you don't know about the sources, tell them that too. We did. So now what's the next? We've given them the public all the information we can so that people can write the stories today raising these questions. And we laid it all out for people to examine, including our citations and our concerns. We pressed the questions about the nature of these interrogations as hard as we possibly could. And the CIA's failure to answer in some cases is now the subject of criminal investigation. So what's the next step? The next step has got to be, then, if you want more reliable information through a trial, then bring the people to trial. I've been an advocate both inside and outside of the government of bringing these people to trial in every possible way. And perhaps a little bit due to my efforts, a couple of years ago, the president decided that those people would be brought out of the black sites and brought to trial. And my hope is that when they are eventually brought to trial, we'll have a chance to gather more information, perhaps through a more adversarial process, and check on some of the assertions. But if people will look at the footnotes carefully and look at the way they're used in the report, we took into account some concerns. We tried to get multiple sources of information on controversial points that we thought might be questionable. Where we thought the detainees might not be truthful, we say so. We rely heavily on information from the German investigations in Hamburg, from the Spanish investigations in Spain, from information gathered in the largest criminal investigation ever conducted in the history of the United States to reconstruct the forensic evidence on all this. And, of course,
Philip
the televised confessions and bragging of bin Laden and KSM.
Philip Zelikow, if I can, I just would like to bring in Robert Windrum again on this issue of he says that basically the commission disclosed all of the sources of its information, and it was there for anyone to see. In your report, what did you conclude on that?
There is, and Mr. Zelikow pointed this out to me, as did two of his former staffers, that there is on page 146 of the commission report a description of why they decided to use the interrogation information. And wherein that box, as it's referred to, has some information about their concerns, it does not state that they had concerns about these interrogations being undertaken with duress. It did not state that specifically. And talking to Mr. Zelikow and talking to two of his former staffers, they did express at that time certain concerns about, and as Mr. Zelikow said to me, they guessed that there was harsh interrogation techniques used. There is a general description on that box on page 146 of their concerns, but it does not go specifically to the issue that we're discussing here today, which is whether these interrogations took place under duress. And that was certainly something that there were internal discussions on within the commission staff.
We're going to come back to this point in a minute. We have to break. We're talking to Philip Zelikow. He is the Executive Director of the 9/11 Commission, now professor at University of Virginia. Robert Windrum, NBC News investigative reporter who broke the story on the 9/11 Commission report and how much of it is based on torture, on information that was obtained under torture. And Michael Ratner, President of the Center for Constitutional Rights. We'll be back in a minute. you.